believe it is. So have your guys' minds been well? Practice going well?
Too bad. What about you?
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very good.
I just find my biggest challenge is work, expectations at work. Just expectation I put on myself and also put on other people just causes me a fair bit of stress. So I'm just trying to work on letting go, you know. Yeah, it's challenging, but
Yeah. But it's something to play with, right? Like to be aware of and bring the Dhamma into it. Yeah. So we can let go.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, and it works. Like I've been trying this week to one thing that Dhammarato talks about is ideally doing short meditations throughout the day, you know, multiple times throughout the day. So particularly when I'm at home, because I'm by myself, obviously, I can stop and every hour for a few minutes and just sit and just noticing what's there. Like sometimes I can get quite calm in those few minutes, but other times just whatever I'm dealing with work, it's just, I just can't let it go, you know, it's just running through my head for those few minutes that I sit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of been interesting.
Work seems to be a common one for most people.
I think, you know, we get paid. So I know for me, I've been raised with that kind of work hard ethic, you know, through my parents. That's why I was raised. And these people are paying you, so you have to work hard and you have to sacrifice and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's where that expectation comes from, you know. These people are paying you, so you have to sacrifice and stress and work hard and whatever. So yeah, strong conditioning, I think.
Yeah. It's good though to see that and to see the conditionings of that and then be able to like let it go and just, you know, deal with things in a practical way so you don't, you know, overstress yourself about, you know, and having things need to be like a particular way because it can be so easy to get caught up in that conditioning, but just to see it and be like, oh yeah, don't need to do that. But no, it takes, it's like repetition though to see that and like be aware. Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, it's good to hear though that, you know, you're bringing it in with the practice and
Oh yeah, I've got much better over the years. Like I remember when I was younger, oh man, stress at work. Yeah, I'd really get stressed out about things. But now I can sort of let stuff go relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And maybe there's another job you can take that maybe won't get paid as much, but will be less stressful on you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm sort of I've got myself in a financial position, you know, where it's, I can do anything I want really, but at the same time, you know, school fees, lifestyle, kids,
I hear you.
You know, yeah, you understand. You guys know what I mean. You you build a lifestyle where you're spending a certain amount of money, and the idea of having to the upheaval of sort of going, oh, well, hang on now, I can't do this and and the kids can't do this and the kids can't do that and blah, 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 sort of.
Yeah.
But my work, I don't think my job's that stressful, to be honest with you. I think I create the stress, to be honest.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. My job, I've been doing it for a long time. I know what I'm doing, so it's not like it's really challenging in that sense. And everyone I work with is cool, so.
Well, hey, there you go, man. You pinpointed the problem. It's your own mind, and it's not even really a problem now that you're aware of it.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, don't underestimate the simplicity of practice either. Like you were saying, 6 times a day or in the balanced way. Sometimes I really admire that one guy. I don't know if it was a particular guy, but some teachers who just tell their students just focus on a mantra. And you could do that in a, but just the simple practice of focusing on a mantra or the breath, letting that be your home away from the storm of the mind. Just that simple practice is enough. It's good. It'll do the trick. It's just our bad habits pull us away from our home, you know?
Yeah.
They bring us in the samsara, the world of man, eating from the tree of knowledge. And like I always say before, you could spend years in isolation, just breathing happily and relaxing. And the world goes on turning. And you realize, oh, wow, what a mess I was making of things trying to control everything. And you don't need to go to a cave in the Himalayas and stuff. If you have, just sit on your bottom wherever you are, or walk on your feet like you're doing, and just focus on the breath, focus on the mantra, and that stuff, that worry, that anxiety. Remember to see it as fleeting. It's not going to last. It seems when any thought, feeling, emotion arises, when we give it our attention, it seems like it's going to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't break that spell in a way. But with the Dhamma practice, you can, because then once that stuff arises, you see, oh, I'm taking it personally. When I take it less personally, less seriously, it becomes more of a biological thing than a spiritual thing. It's like the stuff will pass. Oh, hi, Jonesy.
Yeah.
Hi, JJ.
Welcome, Jay.
Oh. Hey.
How's your mind doing?
What's up?
How's your mind doing? How's your practice going?
Oh, not the worst. It exists.
It's good. It exists, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, that's one foot in the right direction. Oh, hi, Edward.
Hey, Eddie.
Well, what's
Welcome,
up,
Eddie.
guys?
How's it going, man?
How we doing?
Good.
Good.
Chilling, hanging out with friends.
Luke was telling us about how he
Right on.
was experiencing some what was it, Luke? Anxiety and worry about work.
Yeah, just a bit of stress, expectations, putting expectations on myself that are unachievable, really.
Nice. And then Jonesy, JJ was just talking about how her practice is good enough, that it's still existing, so that's good. That's basically everything.
Okay. Right on. Glad it's still there. Hanging on there.
Yeah. Speaking about that and kind of bringing things together in terms of the topics, one of the things that I find to be quite helpful, and this too, I used to work at a sub shop, and I remember while I was practicing, I could get into, oh, did I practice in seclusion enough before this? Or I really want to practice in seclusion. But coming back to just this breath is satisfying enough. So just like one of them is really helpful, I find, for coming back to the practice and kind of dropping all those expectations either way. It's beneficial to get into seclusion, of course, to develop this skill. But it's helpful too to just drop all those expectations and just come back to this breath here. Wherever we are, when we have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
It's funny. I saw a TikTok of this guy. Are you guys familiar with Dakota? I forget his last name. Dakota DeWitt or something like that.
I think I know. Dakota of Earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that recent one where he went up to these sadhus or whatever in India, and he was giving one of the head dudes, he was giving DMT. He was smoking DMT. But I thought the video was fascinating because before he gave this guru dude or sadhu guy the DMT, he was doing his typical Indian, not to generalize, but as far as sadhus go, he was just like almost naked, just smoking, meditating, chilling out. But you can tell there was an air almost of arrogance from my perspective. Not in a bad way, just the normal human ego kind of going at it. But when Dakota had him asked him if he wanted to, and then he smoked this DMT, it was so amazing to watch because this guy, for better or worse, he spends all day being a sadhu or being this holy man, It's not unfamiliar to him, especially in the Indian sects, all the details with the Vedas and stuff like that. But as soon as he smoked this stuff, he was putting on a little show at first, like he's very powerful and stuff. But then when the stuff started kicking in, dude, like the camera pans to his face and he's just got tears and this look of just like they call it ego death, but you really see it in his face. And I just thought it was interesting because it was such a contrast to how Dakota was filming this guy's facial expressions earlier when he was supposedly this holy enlightened man. And it's just like when he smoked that shit, you just see boom, like it's just like he's just crying. And it was very it was like humbling to watch. Like it kind of like gave me this sense of, God, we're all full of shit. And when you really experience, whether it's DMT or meditation, whatever, you really get the good stuff. All that facade is just like, whoosh, and it's just like, wow. It's very, I don't know, it was a very powerful video, and I'll share it on our Discord if I find it again. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Was he sstanding up or laying down?
He was sitting down. He was
Sitting down. Okay.
But then after he smoked it, I think he got up and like did a dance or something. But then after it kicked in, he was just like,
he had to sit down. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was sitting down. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
he had tears in his eyes, and you just like, it was so fascinating to watch. Like that's somebody who was humbled. You know what I mean? And you don't need DMT especially for it. It could be all kinds of various things, but good Dhamma practice, particularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Could
like
oh, sorry,
few
Eddie.
most intense experiences of my life, and DMT's up there.
Oh.
Also
You
with
did
like
DMT?
retreats. Yeah, I've done it.
Allegedly? Wow.
Yeah, dude. You start sitting down, and then I lay down on the floor after that because you're just floored. I went away.
Wow, that's cool, man. I love hearing those stories. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And then
makes
you
you.
can make a spiritual ego about doing that also. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, like Mike Tyson was saying when he did that toad medicine. He's done it like a whole bunch of times in here. And I thought to myself, like, if it was so awesome, wouldn't it just like work once and that's all you would need to do? But he said he kept going back and kept going back. And yeah.
I think sometimes you need to keep going back. Some people do. Some people get the message and can hang up the phone. And then other people will become addicted to being on the phone.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think also not well in cases of like needing a reminder, like I think if like whatever life doesn't present you with that like reminder of whatever reinforcement of the trip, you go back to it to like. But I've also never done drugs like that, so that's not a firsthand opinion.
Yeah, it is fascinating. And addiction is fascinating too. Always trying to hold on to
Yep.
something. Go ahead, Jones.
I'm sorry. No, that's a good point. You're talking about addiction as like not just a chemical thing, but like it happens in bipolar disorder too, where people get so addicted to the experience of mania that they like try and induce mania, doing a lot of things that other people use for enlightenment.
Nice.
Like what, for example? Just the psychedelics?
No. People will like intentionally not sleep and not eat because it will like throw off the body's circadian rhythm so hard that you have a really good chance of going into mania.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, no sleep is a big one. It's amazing how the body needs sleep.
Yeah, I had someone advising me to try not sleeping and not eating, and I was like, nah. Like the not eating I could survive, but not sleeping I'd just go mad. I'd end up just screaming at people. It wouldn't be good.
Yeah. There's probably a gray area like where you can get an hour or two and still be functional and okay. Or even meditate, the classical sitting meditation. You could probably even do that and remain awake and it would have less effect on your body. I could only assume, but
Yes, that's what they told me over the summer at that one clinic. Is they encouraged rest as opposed to sleep, and like put your body down in like a lying down position like you're going to sleep, but like if sleep doesn't come, that's fine. It's the general resting and letting your mind kind of do nothing. Wild, right?
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. Yeah. Yeah, that approach of rest as opposed to like, I mean, because I think too is like sleep can become this thing where it's like, oh, we need to get this amount of sleep or else, and it can actually lead to even more worry. So that approach of like, hey, we can just rest right now, right? And if sleep comes, it comes, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, right? But yeah, I think it's wise for the most part in most situations to not like try to induce not sleeping, like it's
yeah.
still, yeah, like we don't have to bring it about, but again, if something comes up or whatever, it's like, okay, we can just, rest and enjoy the night. Yeah, that's kind of, I think, a beneficial thing. Also too, it's understanding the context and where we are and not becoming like arrogant about things, because I think that can lead to a fair bit of harm. Again, it's wise to be confident, but if we go to the point where it's like, oh, I can go do this thing that this one Zen master does, often, who's been training for years, that just might not work with the conditionings that we're presented with this body mind here, right? And so it's being aware of that. Again, we can be content and satisfied with where we're at, but it's also like part of that is not pushing, to the point where it's dangerous. And I think this is where also sila and a wise form of, how we conduct ourselves comes into play as well. And that's been something that's been very beneficial here, is that reminder of sila and bringing it all together, because we're not like seeking out these experiences that we have to have this experience. When we can come back to just being satisfied and content with ease, then it's easier to keep one's sila and not go seeking these things and doing dangerous things, right? So I find that to be quite helpful. That's helped me, that reflection, while practicing as well.
Yeah. And it's funny from from a Dhamma perspective, like right morality or good morality would be like anything that just doesn't cause dukkha for ourselves or others,
Yeah.
or for other beings. And the good news is it's not very difficult. Like Like, like the Buddha was saying, like you don't even have to do good if you don't want to. Just don't do bad, like don't go out there fucking with beings, And just that alone, it's like, oh, I just have to like go about my day and not like murder stuff and not like make people or beings feel like shit. It's pretty easy, you know what I mean? The part that probably some people run into some roadblocks would be probably the treatment of themselves. People can be very hard on themselves. With others,
true.
they may be fine.
And the right livelihood aspect. When money's involved, morality can go out the window pretty quick.
Yeah.
Great ones there.
Yeah, Ajahn Brahm often says, being a monkey's supposed to keep the 227 precepts or whatever it is. But he just says, I just keep 2 precepts. Do no harm to myself and do no harm to other people. And that's it. Like, he just, very simple.
There you go.
Yeah.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, just testing.
I was told not to worry about the secondary or the tertiary aspects of right livelihood. Like, you need to drive a car to work, and you might end up like ruining the environment because of that, or maybe getting into an accident. Things like that. Because I've been looking at morality from a nuanced perspective, getting into the very nitty gritty. Like, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? Like, if it's 90% helpful, but like 10% harmful, it's like, should I even do it?
That's why the precepts are good too, because like that question, that conundrum question of, if you're on a train with 5 people and the train's gonna somehow crash or something if you don't throw a person off or something. You ever hear of that?
Yeah, the trolley problem.
Oh
yeah, the trolley problem.
You split the train and it kills 5 or kills 1 or something.
I always liked. That's for me is when the precepts of all kinds become very valuable, because it's like Ajahn Chah said, he would give his life rather than to knowingly kill an animal or to kill even an insect or an ant. And I'm glad in a way, if ever presented with that problem, like I've been given guidelines that would they have solidified a type of morality, like, oh, you just have to kill this one person, you'll save all of us. It's like, no, we're all gone. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the way it is. I'm not gonna knowingly harm one of us unless they volunteer and they jump themselves or whatever. That's the difference. Maybe that's what I would do. I might jump myself. But,
like go back in time and kill Hitler type of thing.
Yeah, but then the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You could justify most of the most horrible things in the world, acts of war and such. They're done with the most pure intentions from the other side, and then it's interesting to watch how they dehumanize the other side, because no human really in their heart wants to kill another human, but they make up these stories. Oh, they're not humans, they're rats, they're cockroaches, they're less than scum, these aren't humans, they're communists, they're this, they're that, pick a thing. And it takes some wisdom to be like, to have that sila and morality and be like, no, they are humans. I see things clearly, these concepts that you're trying to propagandize in our head, they're not going to work on us, If more people could kind of, no pun intended, jump on that train, I think the world would be better off. But sometimes people get in their own way too much. They over philosophize, over analyze things. It's just like, that's why a lot of the precepts I really like, it's just like, don't kill things, don't be shitty. Oh, but I was trying to do good, but I was trying to do good very rarely will entail killing. I'm not saying it can't, I think there's I don't know what sutta it is or whatever, but I think there's a story of, I think from the Tibetan side, of one of the Buddha's incarnations was on a vessel on a boat. He was a sailor or something, and he ended up killing the whole crew because he saw with his power that one of the crew members was going to end up killing everybody. But that's just a story. I don't know if it actually happened, but it kind of goes against what we were saying.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere. But
I think it's in the Jataka tales, which are the stories of the Buddha's past lives in the Theravadan tradition. Yeah, I think that's where that story comes from. But yeah,
that's sweet.
Like you say, whether it's true or not, who knows?
Yeah, he ended up killing the dude. Yeah, but I mean, if you know some guy's gonna kill, if you know for 100% certainty some dude's gonna kill all these innocent people, that's a little different than just throwing somebody off to save everybody. I feel like, I don't know, but I guess that's why it's to each their own.
That'll probably happen less, but I heard something similar with right speech and lying. Like, when is it appropriate to lie? And it was an example like that. Somebody says, like, with a bomb on their chest, "Where is the crowd of people?" And you lie and you say, "That way," and it's like the forest over there or something.
Yeah.
But that's like super, like, exaggerated. But
right.
I think we start to do that in our lives and find that area,
that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And that's why they're good guidelines, because at the end of the day, we have to be adults and use our own judgment. And it's like, if you don't lie to them and say, "Oh, it's that way in the forest," it's like, "But I was following the precepts." It's kind of foolish, But
yeah, they're good guidelines.
Yeah, the train example is a bit different because I feel like it's just would be knowingly killing somebody who has no intention to harm anybody, But yeah, interesting things to think about.
How are y'all with right speech? Do you have a difficult time or easy time keeping with right speech?
I don't know. I lie a lot.
Are you lying about that?
What'd you say?
Are you lying about lying a lot?
No, I mean, I'd lie like normal humans lie. No big things. But maybe, maybe I'm just in denial. But yeah, I lie. I could probably use a lot better ways of saying things, especially to certain people, especially in moments of frustration.
Yeah.
But I always, when I studied Tolstoy, who kind of created his own form of Christianity, he has a short story, and basically the moral of this short story is he met all these miserable people who didn't have Jesus Christ as their savior or whatever. But he would meet these peasants in the field at the end of the story who just didn't have anything. They were just wearing rags. And when he would ask the rich Christians and stuff if they thought they were going to heaven, they would all say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to heaven. I'm going right to heaven." But when he would go in the field and ask these like old like people who like lost children, had fucked up lives, and he asked them like, "Do you think you're going to heaven?" He was surprised by this old woman's. Her first response was, "Fuck no, man. I'm paraphrasing, but she was like, "Fuck no, I'm going straight to hell." If God has any sense, he'll send me right there because that's where I belong. And I always admired that honesty. And that's not something that it's not a characteristic that many people possess. You have to be radically honest with yourself, or else you're just fooling yourself. Anyone can sit here and say, "Oh, I have correct speech. I have correct this," and you're full of shit. All of us.
Yeah.
There's not one Sure, some may vary. Others, we may vary a little less than a serial killer, for instance. But generally speaking, even for quote normal borderline people, it helps to be honest with yourself and others as best you can. Otherwise, it's like AA. It's like if you're an alcoholic, you ain't gonna fix your addiction if you don't first admit that it fucking exists. You know what I mean? If I sit here like, "Oh, I'm perfectly enlightened," and that's not even what I'm after, anyways. Because the vision of nibbana, a cool mind, doesn't necessarily mean you have to become a saint. It just means you have to be satisfied, you know? And what satisfies me is trying to be honest, even though sometimes I may not. Trying to be honest, trying to be, quote, good, you know? That interests me. So radical honesty is very important.
The hardest part for me is not the honesty, but does it add to the silence? Is it the right time and place for this? Those, like, sometimes I think back into a conversation and I'm like, if I would have just said nothing, it would have been so much better. Yeah.
But the past is dead, you know?
The past.
Yeah, everybody can play that game. I'm sorry, DJ, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I think funny enough, this is from reading Daniel Ingram a while ago, but one thing he mentioned about right speech is like it's wise not to become neurotic about it, right? And so I think this is something that's really helpful, is to see these guidelines and to apply them as a training, because the Noble Eightfold Path is a training. So we develop this right speech, and I think as a skill, it takes some time again to develop that more and more, especially because we have all these habitual patterns when it comes to the way that we speak. So again, it's like, it's just training. And so rather than beating ourselves up about all the wrong speech that we've done our whole lives, when we observe, what seems like wise, kind, wholesome speech, we can congratulate and bring that back. But I'm not going to lie and say, I'm perfect when it comes to right speech all of the time. No. But I think, it's beneficial, I've seen here, to be aware of those, qualities, and then, remember to bring them up, to speak in such a way, especially when it comes to the truth. But it is interesting, how these things become nuanced, and even something like adding to the silence, and how that can become, perhaps nuance. But it can also be good not to get super swallowed in nuance either, and that's why sometimes just being quiet is quite beneficial, because then you don't have to worry about any of this.
And at the end of the day, it's really just a relationship with dirt, a relationship with the body. The body may do these things that we wish kind of would do something else, but they don't. That's what being a human is. That's why I used to get wrapped up in the game of having to be perfect and having to be the most enlightened and having to be this. But I would reflect on that old Russian dude. What's his name? Fucking Rasputin. And I would read some of his biography, and I would see some good things he really did in his life, helping sick people and stuff like that. But then you read the horrible atrocities he would do as well. But it kind of dawned on me. It's like it is what it is. I'm not saying be like Rasputin whatsoever, but at the end of the day, we're all kind of like Rasputin. We all have a yin yang to us, And the best part is it's not really us. It's a part of us. There's a body there that is operating automatically. Like the birds fly in the sky, the human can lie, cheat, steal, do all the things the devils do, but also can be very beautiful, kind, compassionate, just like the saints. And it's always good to be working in that, in the right direction, the right sila. And we will fall short. Rest assured, we all will fall short. And that does remind me of that thing in the Bible. It's like, there's not one innocent, not a one. And but I put a little bit more positive spin on it. Yeah, and that not all there's not one being innocent. It reminds me of that other Buddhist story of Dhammarato used to talk about it. I'm not good with the suttas and all this stuff, but it was one enlightened Buddha like killed like 200, 500 people, but then he started doing Dhamma practice and became an enlightened master. And I remember Dhammarato saying, like, look, if that guy can do it, we surely can do it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that was such a relief, that you could take the biggest piles of shit in the world And there's always that redemption that exists here and now with every breath, realizing everything's okay. And this story we tell about this character, it comes and it goes like everything else. And it may not even be true, a lot of it. You know, a lot of the times the way we see ourselves or others is very, very misleading, very, very tricky how we see things in this illusory world. But there's nothing tricky when we're satisfied and just breathing here and now. All the questions and all the answers just kind of fade away. It becomes very simple practice. And I do, even like with this conversation when I'm talking with you guys and saying these things, sometimes I reflect on, oh, should I have said this, should have that? But then at the end of the day, like I was telling Eddie, you know, the past is dead. And we're breathing, and we're not wanting to harm anybody. We're not wanting to do anything bad. We're breathing. Everything's fine. Nothing left to do, nowhere to go.
So you guys never, when that happens to you, write down the thing that you like think of as a good point and bring it up later?
I don't write it down, but I obsessively think about it until I'm like, okay, I thought enough about that. Like, never mind, start again. And I'll put it in my back pocket, like, and say, I'll say that if I need to.
Yeah, it's a fun game. Just like, fuck it, who cares? Nobody means any harm usually, especially in these Dhamma groups or whatever you want to call them. So it's even easier to forget about the past.
Oh, so never mind.
Oh, go for it.
Nothing. I'm realizing I do that because most of the people I talk to are in groups. And so it's usually like, oh, this is probably still helpful, so I'll just tell them later. But it sounds like you guys are talking about like just general conversation where you like are bonding over a topic and sharing points on a topic or arguing or something.
If it's helpful, you could definitely write it down and pass it on for sure.
Yeah. Like I said,
But I'm
never
mostly
mind.
talking about the things that would cause dukkha.
Yeah, never mind.
Forget about
I mean,
that.
if you don't write it down, it does. And then you go, well, what if, when that happens to me, I go, well, what if I couldn't tell this person no matter what? But that's like an anxiety response. Anyway, never mind.
Yeah,
Well,
that
not
is
never mind.
that is an anxiety response because you're trying to solve the puzzle, you know? You're trying to go back to the past, and maybe if I manipulate this, the future will be brighter and better, and this, instead of seeing the beautiful, clear light of right here, right now. Everybody can play that game. We could all write books on how we wish we could have done this, or somebody, or we said the wrong thing we didn't intend to or did intend to. You could do that all day long, but that's what some people do, and they're not happy. You know?
I find benefit, in journaling, though that's like a bit more of a tertiary sort of practice. And I think that's something that's like kind of helpful to remember within the context of, this is that really practicing, the Dhamma, it's helpful to become really content and satisfied with very little. And this is sort of like the refuge, and this is the point. The other stuff can be very helpful, and it can be helpful for working in the world, especially in sort of a mundane way, like journaling and dealing with our past conditionings and traumas, and all that's cool, right? But like, again, sometimes it's not necessarily the most secure thing. So within the context of like practicing the Dhamma, it's really helpful to come back to like, oh yeah, with the absence of wanting stuff, we can just chill out, right? Because we're not always going to be able to say, what we think would be the best thing to somebody at like the right time. Right. And sometimes we might not have a notepad or something to write that down. And so this is the point, is like, if we're in the doctor's office, or wherever, right? And we're thinking, oh man, I really wish I had something that I could write this down on, right? Or in the conversation, it's like, hey, wait a minute, we don't need to worry about that right now, right? We can throw that out. We can come back to this breath and like chill out. But it might still be wise, yeah, to go spend some time and just journal and work out some of these things, you know, in that context too, right? So not knocking that here. I think that it can be of benefit, but it's also helpful, I think, to practice in this way as well, you know, if one's interested in the Noble Eightfold Path.
Very interesting, that path.
Or method, you could say.
Yeah, I probably should have journaled last night. I was thinking about it, and I was like, ah. I was triggered. I don't. What helps you guys with being triggered? With like, you're emotionally charged. Your thoughts are different. You have like looping in your head of the same thoughts, and you recognize it, and then they still pop back up. And I start my practice over, like, breathing in long, and I get to like the fifth step of Anapanasati, and then I'm back to the the thought loop of the triggering thing. So what do y'all do for that?
Yeah, here lately I've been finding, you know, very helpful because sometimes it's not even so much the thought loop, but it's like the general sort of emotion, right? And so being like, hey, it's okay to feel this way. So dropping, you know, that I find beneficial to dropping like any kind of aversion towards this whole process. And sometimes just seeing it as those conditionings, you know, playing out. And that right there is the right effort to make a wholesome change, right? It's just like, oh, okay, this is cool, right? Whatever's like going on, right? So we don't need to go in there and like force it because that's just going to cause more aversion, but rather, hey, it's okay to feel this way, you know, whatever it sort of is, right? That's been kind of helpful as a wholesome thought.
Mm.
Telling it to stop. Sorry. Like it gets to a point where like, well, it depends on what it is. If it's something like that, like where whatever, it's something for a person to bring up, or my brain tells me it's important, then I'll write it down, because apparently it's called brain dumping. Getting it out causes your brain to stop thinking about it, because like it thinks that it can come back to the thing later, just like when you take a picture and then you never look at the pictures you take ever again. But if I know that this thought, yes, expectations can be difficult, but only if you're like mad at yourself at the expectations. You already know that this is something you're struggling with. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But like, no, stop it. It's not helpful. It's not wholesome. It is not like helping you be productive or in like a unbothered, untriggered mind state. Sit there and yell at it until it eventually it can't get through. I did it for like I don't know, I would say I did it for a good straight 6 hours before I broke the thought loop over the summer at one point. But that's it, if it just keeps coming back. But I'm also like doing other stuff while I'm doing it, right? Like that's not an excuse for me to not like shower and take out the trash and all of those things. But right,
Yeah.
while you're doing those things, the loop is there anyway. No, it's not helpful. Don't let the seed plant. Don't let it plant so you can't come back to it later, so it can't whatever. Forget about letting it go. Don't let it start. Build a dam.
And try to prevent any negative karma from taking place, meaning actions in the physical world. So let's say you're angry, right? And if you could get angry for any situation you could think of, pick a particularly one that would really piss you off. It won't last throughout the day. But if you take that same anger and that same, let's say, person who pissed you off, and you slap them in the face publicly, now you may be dealing with people thinking you're crazy. Now you may be dealing with police. Now you may be dealing with being ostracized from certain groups. Now you may be dealing with this and that, all because of that negative karma of the action from the illusory world. The illusory world's fine. You can feel any way it comes and goes like the wind. But when we act on it and take it seriously, that trigger becomes solidified in a way, and it does take a few days before, unless you just become enlightened right there, and then you don't even care about the negative effects in the physical realm. But usually it's easier just to stop it in its tracks. It's easier, just like Dhammarato said, like to pick the little baby dukkha's as they arise instead of letting it build and then
Yeah.
bam, you do something in the physical realm and now it's real. And now you got to deal with those consequences. Much easier. It reminds me of when Ajahn Chah was sitting in the graveyard and he started having bladder issues and he had to piss, but he just wanted to sit there. And then he was pissing blood and all this shit. And he was afraid. And he's like, man, I'm pissing blood. This is serious. But he told himself, I'm not hurting anybody. You know, I didn't do anything bad. I'm sitting here meditating. If I'm going to piss blood and die, then so be it. Fuck it. If that's what life is, that's what life is. And it's so much easier to swallow when you have the knowledge of, oh, I honestly did not do anything wrong. You know, I honestly was creating no dukkha for anybody. So it's a saving grace, you know?
Yeah. I know. That's cool though, yeah, in terms of this conversation, because we seem to have covered this from a few different like angles, you know, one in terms of, you know, talking a bit more about the feelings aspect. And I think Jay, you answered really succinctly with like in terms of like the level of thought and actually putting in that right effort, and sometimes putting in like a little bit more of that right effort when it's like wise to do so, of like, hey, we can stop the loop, and seeing how, oh, this is actually just not helpful, it's not good, and like reinforcing that, which can be really, I think, beneficial. And then also Dhammadasa, coming back to the action portion of like, oh yeah, you know what, also with this, remember the repercussions of the actions, bring that up, right? Because that's the main thing. I mean, on one hand, we can feel right whatever, but like when we have those thought loops, is going to enforce that. And then if we act out on it, you know, then there's going to be more long-term repercussions, right? So it's sort of like bringing all these together in a wholesome way. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, like you had more of a yin approach, and I took that last night. I was like, okay, brain, whatever thoughts you want to think, have at it. You know, I'll accept anything and just like go with the flow. But I like Jonesy's mama Jay's approach. Weird saying that. I'm sorry, Jay. I like your approach. It's more yang. Maybe that's what I was missing. Like, no, this ends here. No more, or yeah. So it's like a balance now. I can go back and forth more. And I know, Luke, I think you might have unmuted. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I was just going to talk about, I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but where, say, someone's written something to you in an email or at work or sent you a message or something online, and I'll actually write a response of what I want to say to them and then delete it. Don't actually send it. Sit with it and then delete it. And I find that can be quite beneficial in the sense that, I don't know, you're not actually causing any bad karma, like physically, because you're not actually sending the message to them of what you really want to say, but you're sort of getting it out of your system, like you're playing it out. And I don't know, from a dharmic point of view, how that plays out, but that's something I've tried in the past anyway. As long as you remember to delete it, you don't actually send it. That's the most important thing, right?
That's the wrong button. No.
Yeah. But and like, not necessarily nasty, but you know, like just sort of like, wow, this has made me feel like this and that, blah blah blah. I don't know. Just adding that to the mix.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, if it helps you, I mean, yeah, I mean, it reminds me of what Ramana Maharshi said. He's like, you know, if you wanna remain celibate, you know, that's cool. But if you're spending all day thinking about fucking, just like go whack off. You know what I mean? It's better to whack off for 10 seconds or 20 seconds to a person. I'm not that fast, I promise.
Get it out.
But it's better. Yeah,
Okay.
like, whoa. But it's better to get the job done. And then you have a whole day of a free, clear mind rather than fixating on it. You know, that's why with certain drugs, you know, sometimes they don't just go cold turkey. Sometimes they'll just give you a little drip here and there. until you're done, you know? But yeah,
Yeah.
great topics. Great
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
topics.
conversation just
monks
the
and how they
conversation just
handle
took a
that.
turn.
I'm sorry,
Sorry,
what were you
carry on.
guys saying?
Sorry.
What'd you say, Luke?
I was just saying the conversation just took a turn.
Oh yeah, many turns. It's a roller coaster ride. But we have only a minute or two left. Does anybody have anything they want to add before we go? Now's your chance.
Completely off topic, but this morning I was thinking about how, because you don't ever speak very much, like the silent thing, I think that's part of the reason I enjoy spending time with you so much. I'm always excited for you to be here. Oh, he never speaks. And when he does speak, it's something really good. Because that's how we
Luke?
started this conversation, in case you guys forgot. When is the right time to say something and how often? It's better to say nothing at all, and it works, right? Think you're great because you never say anything.
Who are you talking to, Jonesy?
You, Dhamma.
Oh, me? I never
Yeah.
stopped fucking talking. I think I
Maybe
talked
I
about you.
call then. What you're saying is I speak so much I don't give you a chance to whenever you're in the call.
Oh no. If anything, I think Luke and Jonesy are more silent. But you know, things change. Perceptions are weird that way, you know.
It is.
And like you were saying, every time the silent ones, in my opinion, do start talking, it's good stuff. It's always good stuff. So speak more, everybody, if you choose to. But
Yeah.
on that note, unless anybody else has anything they want to say before we go, we'll
Yeah,
probably wrap it up.
I just felt
Go
like
ahead.
saying, you know what, congratulations to everyone for showing up and, you know, taking interest in this. So I think it's cool. Yeah.
Yes, totally.
I just want to say, never mind, start again.
Yes. Yes. Good motto. All right, dudes. Much peace and love. Thank you so much.
Right.
Have a good week. See you on the weekend or so.
See ya.